It's that time of year. It's time for our best of 2024 video. Hey guys, welcome back to Under the Covers. I'm Francesca, and today I am doing my favorite books of 2024 and my biggest letdowns. Now, these are from the books that I personally read, but we do have our list on the blog for the best by genre of the new releases of 2024. And those are across books that either Suzanne, our guest reviewers, or myself have read in 2024. So if you want to check those out, I'm going to leave links to those blog posts in the description box down below. There's lots of amazing recommendations there. Depending whatever mood you're in, you're definitely going to find something that you should be adding to your TBR. But these are books that I read that I really loved. And you're going to see a bit of a theme for my reading for 2024 that I actually want to make sure that I am being very intentional in 2025 and I'm reading more of these things. I talk a little bit more about that in my reading tips video, which is how you can actually stick to your reading goals. So if you want to make sure you don't miss that video, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification so you don't miss any videos from us. But without any more delays, let's get right into the best of 2024 from the books that I read. So I'm actually going to do this in categories that we used to do on the blog many years ago. Just to give you an idea, those categories are best new releases, best new to me, best new series, favorite heroine, favorite hero, best cover, biggest letdown, best couple, and author of the year. So that is what we're working with here, and let's jump right into the best new release. If you've been around the Under the Covers channel, it should be no surprise that I really enjoyed Lights Out by Navessa Allen. This book came out this year. I read it a few months after it was released, and I absolutely loved it. I actually picked this up because it was pitched as a mix of the Mindfuck series and Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. And we will talk about that in a second. But I was really interested in that. And I would actually say that this falls somewhere in the middle. It's not quite like Butcher and Blackbird. It's not quite like Mindfuck, but it is kind of an in-between book. It is also a great starter book if you want to get into reading dark romance, because with all of the humor and some of the plot in general, it does fall on the lighter side of dark romance, which I think is a great entry point. And the writing and the characters are just so addictive that it's going to be really one that you binge and you absolutely fall in love with, no matter the genres that you usually read. So this one, technically, don't get put off by it, but it is a stalker masked man romance. The hero of the story is basically an online influencer or celebrity, and his account is all about doing thirst traps with a mask, so nobody really knows what his face looks like, and also they can be a bit bloody and intense. Now, our heroine is one of his followers, and she's really obsessed with this account. She's really into it, and she happens to have had a bit of a relationship with the guy's roommate. Except she doesn't know that. She tried to get him to play out one of those scenes with her, and it turned out that he showed that text message to his roommate, which is obviously the person with the account. And he makes it his mission to find out who she is. He kind of remembers her from when they were going out, and he is determined to find her. Goes into a bit of that stalking. Of course, he finds her, breaks into her house, and more crazy things ensue from there. Now, this was definitely a much stronger book, the first half of the book, or first like 2/3 of the book, and it lost me a little bit towards the end, but it was certainly extremely entertaining. The hero is one of my favorite heroes of the year. It was so funny. I love the humor. I think that the MMC is a little bit like Joe Goldberg from You by Carolyn Kepnes. So if you like that, but you were missing the romance, then I think that this would fit that bill. Overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm definitely looking forward to book 2 in the series. And also, quick tip, if you want a little bit more from Navessa Allen, she does have a Patreon, and she has released some of a short story in there that you can read for some extra pleasure. So for the next one, we're going into best new to me. That means it was not necessarily a book that came out this year, and it was quite popular, or I really wanted to read it, and I just didn't get around to it when it came out. So for that, we're going with Butcher and Blackbird by Brynne Weaver. I did briefly mention it before because I did read this one first. And I was so in love with this book. I was obsessed. It is about two serial killers, and they develop this sort of competition. They don't just kill random people. They are kind of vigilantes. They do go after other serial killers, so they kill the bad guys, which makes it better, right? It is also kind of a dark romance. There's plenty of dark things. With the first book that I talked about in this one, definitely check your trigger warnings. But it is also so full of humor. And I definitely think that Brynne Weaver is the master at that mix. I will be reading more books by Brynne Weaver in 2025 for sure, because I just really loved that juxtaposition of those two things of reading a very dark scene, but it's full of humor and I'm sort of laughing and enjoying it when I should be totally put off. So definitely need more of that in my life. Highly recommend this. And I definitely think you should give it a try, even if you think that it's not something that you would enjoy. I felt like that. That's why I didn't read it when it came out. And honestly, I should have just tried it right away. Now, for the next one, we're going to talk about a best new series. So that means it's a series that came out this year. And the one that I'm going to talk about is definitely lesser known and not as talked about, but is one that I absolutely love. And there were two books released in the series in 2024. And that is the Fae, Flings, and Corset Strings series by Tessonja Odette. This is a fantasy romance, and it is just so fun and quirky and just a good time. I think you would love both books if you like kind of quirky characters, a bit of rivalry and enemies to lovers. Both books have a touch of that. In the first book, which is a rivalry of hearts, we have two writers, the heroine who is human and she writes Fae smut, and the hero who is a Fae shifter and he writes poetry. So both of them go on tour together in these like Fae lands, and they are competing for a prize contract at the end of this tour. Both of them really need the money. Both of them really want to get this contract, and they also enter into a Fae bargain to kind of make sure that they win the prize, even if they don't get the most sales. Super fun, super adorable, lovable characters all around. I am totally addicted, and I will be reading more of Tessonja Odette in 2025 for sure, because this series actually is connected to some of her other series. They can all be read in different order. It doesn't matter. They are just kind of in the same world. So I'm super interested to read more in this world, and I'm excited that I actually have more to explore. For the next category, we have favorite heroine. And this was a little bit complicated for me to pick because I probably would have gone with the tried and true only because I read one book in the Hollows series by Kim Harrison, and I really love Rachel Morgan. So as a side, that would have been American Demon by Kim Harrison, which was a book that I read. But I'm going to go with something new because I wanted to make sure that I gave you guys new things to explore and new things that I discovered and love in 2024. And that book was A Fire in the Sky by Sophie Jordan. Now, the heroine in this book is actually the servant in a way of the royal family, and she takes the punishment whenever the royal princesses do something wrong. In this case, there is kind of a barbarian that's come to get payment for his people's work in a war for the king. And what he wants to claim as his prize is one of the royal princesses as his wife. Of course, the king has no interest in giving him actually one of his princesses. So he thinks that it's perfectly okay because our heroine has been raised with the princesses to take on that punishment for them so that she will do that final sacrifice and that final role. And that is for her to be the one that gets to be married off to this barbarian. So it's technically a bit of an arranged marriage or a forced marriage. He has no idea that that's what's happening, so he's also duped. And there are actually so many more similarities between them as their romance evolves that this is just an absolute must read for fans of fantasy romance, an epic fantasy romance especially. There's also a hint of dragons in this series. It is definitely not a focal point in this first book, but we are exploring that towards the end. And I cannot wait to see that more in the future in other books. So I'm super excited for this whole series. I love a good, strong heroine, someone with resilience that has also gone through a lot, but has come out stronger through that. And it's someone that is also able to see the good in others. And I feel like our heroine is definitely one to look out for. I really loved her. I also really love the hero, and I love the story all around. So I can't wait to explore more of this one. And now from favorite heroine, we're going to go to favorite hero. This was tough for me because I had actually quite a few book boyfriends this year that I was super excited about and so happy to add to my repertoire of book boyfriends in my dungeon. But I'm going to go with one that was a cut above the rest. Although I did talk about Josh from Lights Out already. So that was another contender. And you're going to see another contender later on in this list. So I'll let you know what that is as well. So basically, I'm giving you my top 3 in this video. But top spot is going to Nocticadia by Keri Lake. I love this book. This is a standalone gothic romance. And the hero of this story is a professor. So he's also the one that's been doing some experiments into a particular disease, which is the one that killed the heroine's mother. And she gets a scholarship to attend this college, which is in a very remote, secluded island, very gothic, very eerie vibes. Think secret societies, secret viruses, and crazy things. Plus, so much like past secrets and things about herself that she has to uncover. We definitely have a hero that is super broody in this one. I love me a broody, grumpy, recluse hero, and he is definitely that. This is also an age gap romance and a student teacher romance, and I think that it was handled really well. I really love the internal conflict that our hero is going through, but he is also just hot and amazing. So I couldn't not put him as my top book boyfriend of the year. The next one is for best cover. And now I have to say that for covers of books that I actually read, which is what I based this on. So I didn't just open it up to all of 2024 releases. I wanted to keep it strictly within the books that I read. And I actually ended up going with one that I really loved the book too, so that I could recommend that to you guys. But it was kind of the cover that made me want to pick up the book. So I'm going to go with Never Do Well by Alexandra Vasti. This is a historical Regency rom-com. And I picked it up because it was just so fun. Like, look at that cover. Look how much fun they're having. It looks like there's going to be lots of shenanigans. And that is why I decided to pick up this book. It was a new to me author, never read her before. And I really loved it. I definitely want to explore more in this author's backlist in 2025. Highly recommended if you're looking for a romantic comedy, Regency historical romance with a hero that is just adorable, a heroine that's playing matchmaker to him, but she, of course, is in love with him, but she can't have him because there's definitely reasons why she would be actually really bad for his reputation. All around, lots of shenanigans, which is exactly what this cover is telling you that's going to be inside the book. So I think it's perfectly representative of the book, and I highly recommend the story also. Now, here comes the not so fun part. This is going to be my biggest letdown of the year. And it's actually not just one book, it's an author in general. This is an author that I read 3 books by. And let's start out with the not so bad. And that is The Beloved by J.R. Ward. So this one was a 3.5 stars. So as you can see, not as bad. It was still disappointing because it's not as good as I expect J.R. Ward and this series to be, but it still gave me something to hold on to that I could enjoy. And I actually had done a review of this book in one of our Extra Bite podcast episodes. I might dig that up and post it here on YouTube if you guys are interested to hear it. So let me know in the comments. Then I decided to pick up a book that she released, I think last year or the year before, and it's a young adult thriller. And that is the St. Ambrose School for Girls by Jessica Ward, which is another pen name for J.R. Ward. Really didn't like this. I thought the premise was something that I would really, really enjoy, and the writing I should have enjoyed, and all around, I was so bored by 30% in this book that I DNF'd it. And then we get to the most recent, which is A Bloom in Winter by J.R. Ward, which is also part of the Black Dagger Brotherhood series. I did finish this one, but I ended up giving it 3 stars. it was just kind of boring and I feel like redundant and nothing really important happened that adds any value to the series. I know that probably seemed a little bit harsh, but yeah, that was my experience with J.R. Ward this year, and I feel like it was definitely my biggest letdown. And if this continues, it will just continue being my biggest letdown just because of how good my memories of those core good books in the Black Dagger Brotherhood were and how much I really love them. I still recommend them to everybody because it does have some amazing books. Like the first 20 or so books are so good that really you can't not read them. But there's probably a stopping point of where you should read the series. Now, from biggest letdown, we're going to go to one of my favorite books of the year, and that is Best Couple of 2024. For that, without a doubt, is Phantasma by Kaylie Smith. This is the first book in the Wicked Game series. It's a paranormal romance. The heroine is a necromancer. The hero is a ghost. And it is set at these deadly trials inside of a haunted house. She goes in looking for her sister, and he is a ghost trapped inside this haunted house, looking for a way to get out and needing her help. So they team up. He's going to help her survive so she can find her sister, and she's going to help him find a way to break his curse. Love them. It is so beautiful. The writing is great. The action is great. Like the action is on par with Janine Frost's Night Hunter series, but the romance is just absolutely beautiful, kind of like Nalini Singh's romance and writing and just beautiful quotes. I was highlighting all the time. I just absolutely love them together. They're also a perfect match. I love the banter. I love the sexiness of it. It was just amazing. I can't recommend it enough. And then we get to my author of the year. So author of the year for me is not necessarily the author that I read the most, because actually the author I read the most this year was Whitney G. But it's the author that I enjoyed the most in comparison to all the things that I read. So let's talk like average star rating, basically, and overall enjoyment. So I read 2 books by this author, and I enjoyed and can recommend both highly. And that author is Larissa Ione. The first book that I read at the beginning of the year was Legacy of Temptation. It's the first book in the Demonica Birthright series. Now we're talking next generation from the Demonica world, which I'm always a little bit concerned when we do next generation books because they can be hit or miss with me. She did it absolutely right. It's amazing characters and also really well done plot and world building, so that if you wanted to start here and you don't want to read the whole Demonica world, you don't have to. She gave you enough in this series to really just start from here and you wouldn't be lost at all. You're getting all of the main information, but I mean, you kind of should because it's such an amazing series. There's great books for you to be reading if you read the whole Demonica world. But I digress. Let's go back to Demonica Birthright. So this is the first book. And the second book was Legacy of Chaos, which I read at the end of the year and I also really enjoyed. So if you are looking for solid paranormal romance with high stakes, with lots of action, this is going to be the series for you. And that is it. That is all the books. That is all the authors. Those are all the series that I loved in 2024. Now, as you can see, I loved a lot of what is a bit darker in theme and fantasy paranormal. So I will definitely be switching up my intentions for my reading in 2025 and leaning more into those genres because I generally really enjoyed them. I'll be talking a little bit more about that and some other tips for you to set some reading goals for yourself that you'll actually stick to in the new year in another video. So stay tuned for that. And if you want even more book recommendations for the best of 2024, don't forget all of those lists are already available on the blog. I will leave all of those links in the description box down below. But for today, that is all I have. Let me know in the comments down below what were your favorite books of 2024, or did you read any of the ones that I talked about and did you like them as well? As always, don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any videos from us, and head over to our Substack so you can subscribe to our newsletter so you don't miss any content that we post across all of our platforms. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye.